In Premiere Pro, you can animate the track mat key. That is, you can change the position, scale, and shape of a track mat over time using keyframes. You can do something similar with masks inside SpeedGrade, only it's a little bit easier to animate masks in SpeedGrade than it is to animate the track mat key. So to see how that works, go to SpeedGrade and open that up, and click on Open Project, go to Working Files, Premiere Pro Projects, and go on down to SG Mask Animation. Click on Open. I want to point out one quick thing here before we get started. I've applied adjustment layers above both of these clips, and that's the standard workflow that I use when I work with the Premiere Pro project inside SpeedGrade. But I've discovered that you cannot animate masks in adjustment layers. My guess is that's a bug, and so I want to let you know that's why we're working only on the clips here inside this lesson. We're going to apply a mask and follow the motion of this horse and rider, and then down here in this next clip we're going to track these windows as the camera zooms in like that. Back to the beginning here. First order of business is to explain how keyframes work inside SpeedGrade because they work differently than you've probably ever experienced in any program. They are hold keyframes by default. Now Premiere Pro has hold keyframes as an option, but my guess is you probably have not used them very often, if at all. But here they are applied by default. So I'm going to show you how that works and then show you how you can then turn them into interpolated keyframes to match the keyframes that you would see inside Premiere Pro. So to see that at work, I want to change the color of the scene dramatically. So I'm going to go down here and let's say change it down to something like blue, for example. And then apply a mask to that scene. So I click on the mask button there. Click on the circle. And I want to apply the grading that I applied here to the inside of the mask. So I click on this. I'm going to change the position here by clicking on mask again so I get the widget showing up there and pull it down to this corner just for the time being. Now I want to keyframe that position and scale and shape. So I go down here and there's a little keyframe diamond. So I click on that and that adds a keyframe. And that opens up the timeline and there's that keyframe. And you see there's a keyframe applied by default at the beginning of this clip and to every clip. All right, now I want to move the playhead to some other time, so I'll move it forward a bit. And notice that all those little guys turn red. That means I've moved off that keyframe. And right now I can't move this. I need to apply a keyframe here first and then move it. Normally in Premiere Pro we would change the position and then that would automatically add a keyframe. Here it's a little bit different. So I click on the keyframe button there. And that adds a keyframe, and now I can move this. So let's move it to the lower right-hand corner, for example. So now we've gone from here to there. We've applied a keyframe to have that happen. Let's move a little bit farther forward now. And notice it turns red again. Click on the keyframe button. Move it to the middle, let's say. So now we've changed the position from lower left to lower right to middle. Let's go back to the beginning, press the home key. Let's watch what happens here. I'll play it. It jumps to the right and jumps to the center. That's because these are hold keyframes. There's no keyframe interpolation between them, which would be the default behavior inside Premiere Pro. So that's not what we want to have happen. We want it to be gradual. So to make it gradual, we simply need to click on the keyframe button twice for each keyframe. So I'm going to navigate to this keyframe there so that we can interpolate from here to there. I navigate using this little button here. Click to the left once, one more time, and now we're on top of that keyframe. I click it again, and it becomes an interpolation. And you can see the little arrow there saying it's interpolating from here to there. In SpeedGrade, they call it a dissolve, but in fact, it's an interpolation. Let's go down to the next keyframe, click on that. Click on the keyframe again, and now that'll be interpolated. So I'll press home again, and we'll play this again. And we'll gradually move from one side to the other, and gradually move up there. You might have noticed that when it came out of the first keyframe, it came out with a linear acceleration, just kind of popped out. But when it got to the second and the third, it was a gradual process. So just so you know, it's kind of like a Bezier curve as it goes from one to the next here, but not the first one. Now there is a way to have interpolation applied automatically, but it doesn't work very well and I don't recommend use it. I'm going to remove these keyframes. I can do it one at a time, but I'm going to delete all of them by clicking on this. Go back to the beginning again. And I'm going to turn on auto. It'll turn blue. And apply a keyframe. I'm going to go forward now. And I'm going to make a change here. Notice it stays green, which means we can move this and have it automatically apply a keyframe. So I pull it down here like that. But no keyframe shows up here. That's because there's this kind of lag that happens with some things inside SpeedGrade. I know there's a keyframe there and I know it'll work, but it's not showing up yet, so it's a little bit of a question as to whether it really is there. To have it show up, I need to click down here, for example, click away, click on the mask again, and then there it is. So I'd rather have it show up right away. So since the auto process doesn't really respond right away, I just as soon do everything manually. I just think it's a lot more intuitive and it's not that difficult anyway. So I'm going to clear those guys out by deleting all of them. Go back over here. Turn off auto, and we'll use the manual method. Now there is another automated method called track object, but the thing is the track object feature in SpeedGrade is just not that good, and if you really want to track an object well, you should probably use After Effects, but I will show you the track object system. I'm going to take this mask here and put it on top of the rider, and then here's the track object button. If I click on that, it should start tracking that rider, but it won't because the shape here doesn't anywhere near match the rider, but we'll try it anyway. So I'll click on that, and it says it can't even do it because the shape isn't right. But usually that's because this has been clicked off. I'm going to click on that again and try again. Now it will try to follow it, but notice how if you see through the dark area there, the rider is pulling away from the mask and the mask is not following the rider. So I'll turn that off. If I change the shape of this to more closely match the rider, it might follow her a little bit better, but in fact it's pretty clumsy. So the track object mode just doesn't work most of the time. So I, again, suggest you just stick with a manual approach. So I'm going to reset everything here and start from scratch. Let's put you back toward the beginning. Now we're going to manually follow this rider and kind of have a realistic scenario here. I'm going to fix the tonality here by bringing this down to 0 here with the offset. Bring the highlights up to 100. Then bring the gamma way down because I want to darken the scene up. And then create a mask and then have the grading change be applied outside that mask so we can highlight the rider using the original tonality. So I click on the circle. I'm going to position the circle over her. We'll apply the grading to the outside of the mask by clicking on this little button there. And I want to kind of soften the edge of the circle a bit there, so I click on mask again. I'm going to drag this to the right to soften the edge a bit. So we have a little bit of margin of error here as we work on this. All right, let's fix this up a little bit. Tone it down a bit, maybe make it a little bit smaller there, and position it like that. Okay, that's our starting point. I'm going to click on the keyframe here. Click on it just once, just to get things rolling. And now we'll go forward. Now wait for the motion of the rider to start pulling away from the position there. Right about there, she pulls away. So I'm going to put another keyframe there to mark the beginning of the change, basically. So I click twice, once, twice. Now we'll go forward from there. See how she pulls ahead there? Click it twice, and move it ahead like that. We'll go a little bit farther here. That looks pretty good. Now she starts pulling ahead again, so I'm going to mark the change there by clicking it twice. And then go ahead to where she's actually made the change. Right about there. Click twice again. Move it over now. We'll go a little bit farther forward here. Where she hits kind of an apex in the motion there. Click twice. Move you over to compensate for that. I want to have her come toward the camera so I can show you how you can scale this as well. So we'll go a little bit farther forward here. Right there's another apex. Double click. Move it again. And now we're going to get the scale changing here. Bring it forward like this. So she's kind of turned sideways a bit. Click twice. Move it over. And let's say bring it in a bit like that. Make it a little bit taller, like so. And go a little bit farther forward. And we'll call it a day here, right about there, I think. We'll click it twice. Like that, and kind of expand things a little bit like so. And this way you can see how it works anyway. So I'm going to then click on primary to turn off the mask here. Go back to the beginning, press the home key, and we'll see how that works. You can see that little spotlight, our little follow spot there is working pretty well. And as she approaches the camera, it'll change the shape and the size. So keyframing a mask like this where you don't have to be too precise works really easily compared to keyframing the trackpad key inside Premiere Pro. Now let's go on down the line to this window. The deal about this is that the camera zooms. I want to mask these windows because they're too bright relative to the scene. So I'm going to put my playhead right at the moment it starts zooming in, right there. That's where we're going to put our first keyframe. But I need to mask 4 different sets of windows here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I need 4 different layers here that all have the same kind of tonality for the windows. So I'm going to adjust the tonality of this first one such that the window looks correct, and then we'll duplicate that. So I'm going to bring this thing down, bring the gain way down here so we get it down to 100, and then bring the gamma way down so we can darken those windows up like so. And as a way to have a consistent looking set of windows, I'm going to duplicate this layer here by clicking this little button right there once, twice, 3 times. So now we have 4 windows. Looks like everything went black there. That's because we have these guys all turned down. I'll turn them off so you can see just one of them. I want to change the names by double clicking on it like that. I'm going to type in window, upper right. Now you have to press the return key to accept that. It doesn't go down a layer, it just accepts it. Now go down to the next one, double click again. Window, upper left. Press return to accept that. Next one, go lower left. And double click this one, window, lower right. I want to start on the lower left window there, so I'll turn you off and turn you on. And I'm going to apply a mask to that window. So I'm going to zoom in a bit here by going up to this drop-down list and going from fit, let's say, to 50%. I'm going to apply the square mask. That's the easiest one to work with here. And it's best to center it up on the window with the widget rather than use the points, because then things kind of move around a little bit. So let's center it up like that. Scale it down a little bit so you can see the points. And then start adjusting the points to fit in the window. To see how things are working, you might want to apply the mask now. So I'm going to go down and apply the grade to the inside of the mask there by clicking on that. There you go. Now you can see where you are. Click on mask again and then adjust the points here. We'll try not to do too much work here because I wanted to show you how to do it rather than give you a perfect finished look there. Now that I've done this, I'm going to click away so that little point is not selected because I want to increase the little area around the outside there to give a little bit of drop off. If I don't deselect that, then we're just going to work on that point only. So I deselect that point. Now I can expand the size of the drop off just a little bit. So there's a little soft edge to it. So it's not so harsh around the edge like that. And now I want to put a keyframe for that starting point. So I go over here and click on keyframe. Once is enough. Now I'm going to go forward. It'll turn red because I've moved off the keyframe. And that's far enough for now. I'm going to click twice here to add a keyframe and add an interpolation from one to the next. Change the position, change the scale. We'll do one more. Go ahead a little bit farther and do the same routine. Click twice, boom, boom. Keeping in mind that this is not going to be perfect. We're just trying to show how this works. Okay, so now we've got that animation there. If I go back here, you'll see that pretty much follows the window. Now I want to do this for a second window. So I'll just turn this off by deselecting that. I want to go to the upper left window, so let's just take a look at that. I want to go back to the first keyframe because I want things to work in conjunction with each other. So I click on mask for this other one again. Navigate to the first keyframe here by clicking this little triangle once, twice. Now we'll change to the designated upper left window here by clicking on this, clicking on the eyeball, so it makes things dark again. Let's add a mask there, clicking on the square. The mask is going to go up there. I need to kind of move things around a bit like that. We'll just move it up a bit like so. We'll shrink it down a bit so we can fit it in there. Change the view a bit here. Now I want to apply the mask so I can see what I'm doing. So I'm going to apply the grading to the inside of the mask like that. Click on the mask again so I can see the corner points. Adjust the position a little bit like so. I think you can see how this is going to work now, right? Same routine as before. We're going to click away so we don't have that point selected. Kind of expand the edges a bit there so we can soften the edge around there like that. And now we're going to put a keyframe for that one. So click on keyframe once. That opens it up for that particular layer. Go forward a little bit. It's going to go off the frame again, of course. Click twice to add a keyframe and add the interpolation. Move you back in place. Adjust the size, maybe the points as well. Something like that. Let's do one more, just as we did before. And let's click on E twice. And move up there like that. Expand things down here like that. There we go. We can skew it if we need to, like so. And now let's take a look at our work. Let's pull this thing back to fit. Go back here a little ways. We'll get the mask turned off by clicking away from that, like so. Now we'll watch those two guys, and we'll see that the windows are masked. There's a little bit of motion there because we didn't do it perfectly, but that's a pretty good job. What this shows you is that you can apply different masks to different layers, and you can also duplicate a layer so you ensure that you've got the same kind of tonality from one layer to the next. So I think you can see that animating the position, scale, and shape of a mask here inside SpeedGrade is a little bit easier than animating the track matte key effect inside Premiere Pro.